Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my Shooting's Life podcast. Today, I have Christian King and Tim Dunderi with me. The topic for tonight will be about reloading. How's it going, guys?
Going good.
Doing
How are you
good.
doing, Tim?
Doing well. Doing well. Finally done with my big match for the year.
How did you feel about the match?
I felt really good. Everything went about as good as I could have hoped.
That's
There were
good.
no big hiccups, no major issues anywhere. Nothing I would want to do over.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed the match, but I will have to admit the match was extremely difficult for me. It wasn't really the norm, but it was fun, but very difficult for me. So I
hmm
didn't perform that well at that match. But yeah.
Yeah, that was only my second outdoor match ever, so I had a ton of fun. I think you guys ran a really good match.
Thank you.
All
Yeah, I mean the we had a lot of goals, and we definitely exceeded them. And I'm really glad you guys were a part of it, and look forward to you guys being part of next year's match as well.
definitely. All right. Let's go ahead and answer our first question. So, when and how have long you guys been reloading for? And why did you guys get into reloading?
Tim, go ahead.
All right. I think I've been reloading for like 8 years. I want to say it was around 2018, sometimes maybe late 2017. I got into it just to save money. Like I always remember picking up brass on the ground whenever we were anywhere when I was a little kid. It was always so cool. And when I bought my first pistol, I was like, I might as well save the brass. And then maybe a year after that, I got into reloading. One of my coworkers was a reloader and kind of showed me the ropes, and I learned a lot on my own. But it was definitely to save money in the beginning, and that's still really the goal. Is just to spend less money on ammo at least.
Did you
Doesn't all
yep, yeah, go ahead,
I
Christian.
was just gonna say doesn't really always work out that way, the saving money part.
You just got to do everything in bulk and buy when it's on
Yes.
sale.
Yes.
I was gonna ask you, Tim, did you start reloading 9 or 40?
9 millimeter was the first thing I loaded on a single stage Lee press.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah,
Single
dude.
stage.
What about you, Christian?
Yeah, for me, let's see. So, what is it, 2025? So I've been reloading since about 2020, so it's going on about 5 years now. So I started with a Lee Pro 1000. So it's about a $300 progressive press because at the time, so I was teaching gun classes and I wanted to take advantage of just being able to make my own ammunition. My defensive ammo that I still use is a 147 grain jacketed hollow point. It's the Federal HST, and so those are pretty expensive. Retail price anywhere from like $1, $1.50, depending where you're looking at. If you're like who and you can get it for real cheap, some people can, but for the rest of us, we're paying like a buck 50. So 147 grain is not it's not a particularly common load. 115 is most common, especially here in the US. So in order to get that, well, you pretty much have to kind of make it yourself if you want to make it for cheap. So that's one of the reasons I got into it. And so I the best thing to do is to get somebody to kind of mentor you. There's classes you can take in how to get started in reloading. I definitely recommend that if you can because things can go wrong. And we'll talk about that later, but things can go wrong. But thankfully, for my first couple of years of reloading, nothing went wrong.
Yeah, so for me, I've been reloading for almost 2 years now. And the reason why I got into reloading is because to save money, which I didn't save as much. But I did save more than if I was to buy at the store. And I got into reloading because every everyone I knew was into reloading, so I thought that I might as well just jump into the boat. But yeah, that's how I got into reloading. All right, so the next question is, what are some tips you could give to people that want to get into reloading?
Go
Um,
for it, Tim.
I'll start it out. Just there's a ton of information out there. The internet is rife with it, and a lot of times they'll all disagree. Um, just find a reloading book. Like I think I picked up a Lee reloading manual, and it gave me the real basics and kind of the idea behind how everything works. And then you got to kind of take a lot of the other things you read with a grain of salt. You know, really, if you're when you're starting out, you work with published load data. There's a lot of it out there. Stick within that, and you'll have just a fine time. Don't play loosey goosey and start making stuff up until you really have built up some experience. One of my favorite rules in reloading in general is when in doubt, throw it out. Like if you have a round that's questionable, something weird, throw it in the trash. 10 cents isn't worth your fingers or your gun or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. Yeah, I think that's one thing for people to understand is that I mean you're not really saving too much money. If you're talking about how much like a round of 9 millimeter, I guess a lot of our guys we're reloading for maybe like 10, 18 cents per round that we make, depending on when people got their stuff and where they got it from. So yeah, absolutely. And the cool part is that even if you make a round and it's kind of questionable, you can actually just pull it apart and then you can just reuse all those components, so you really don't lose anything. Yeah, definitely going slow. I think you really nailed that one. I guess some tips from my side. So tips for people looking to get into it, learn as much as you can. Just be a sponge, soak up as much knowledge because the the worst case scenario is that you could end up like the Kentucky Ballistics, right? So if you guys heard of that YouTube channel, so he was using some questionable reloads in his 50 BMG, and he nearly killed himself. And there are people who have absolutely killed themselves because either they're being a little bit careless. The worst case is killing yourself. Bad case is you destroy your firearm and you injure yourself. So I would say be a sponge, learn as much as you can. There is, just like Tim said, there's varying qualities of places to get information. Varying qualities such as, just talking to just like local guys, depending on who they are. I mean, if it's like a high level shooter, they probably know what they're talking about. But if it's just kind of like guys at the gun shop and, they just kind of reload casually for fun, maybe kind of question their technique a little bit. But reloading manuals are always a good place, or you can take like a formal class. There's also some pretty good YouTube channels that are a really good resource. I think Ultimate Reloader is one of my favorites. He covers a lot of stuff. He covers a lot of different topics and projects. He's definitely one that I really like.
Yeah, so for my tips for people that are getting to reloading, I would say before you reload, I would recommend you go do competition matches like USPSA because that's where you will find a lot of people that, reload. Like for me, I never read a book about reloading or I never done any research, but all the people that I ask at the matches, it helped me a lot. So for example, like Tim, I just basically copy your recipe to be honest. Um, and I would recommend if you want to get into reloading, buy a quality press right away. For example, the 750 XL, the Dylan. Because for example, when I first got into reloading, I started with the Lee Pro 1000, which was like 300 bucks, and it was trash to be honest. Because the powder was just spilling everywhere, the primer wasn't working. So I feel like you waste a lot of money and time if you start out with a really cheap press. So my recommendation, just go ahead and buy a quality press like the XL 750 and yeah, and go to competition, ask all the competitor shooter what do they use and stuff. And that's how I think you will learn faster by doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, one
Yeah,
add on to your press. The Dylan is a great example of where to start. Like if you know you're really gonna load for high volume, it's definitely a great place. I wouldn't turn people away from starting with a simple single stage press. Usually you can get one for like sub $100, and you can at least learn how each individual step works. And then you've always got that laying around. Say you need to pull some bullets, you can get a Camelot bullet puller, or you can load some heavy rifle. Like I still load some of my my more accurate calibers on a single stage just because I don't load a ton of it. So it still does a job, and it's a good way to kind of get your feet wet before you dive into the big 750 or something like that.
Yes, that is true. If you're planning to load a lot, then buy quality.
Yeah,
But if you just plan to just learn and load here and there, then yeah, just get a cheap one. Yeah.
you just got to do the math. Yeah, like the press and stuff will pay for itself nowadays. Probably 10, 12,000 rounds, and a 750 will pay for itself
Mhm.
approximately. But
Any,
Oh,
yep.
definitely so. No, but yeah, Ku, you made a really good point. Yeah, talk to people, see what they're using. If you ask around and you can get some advice from them. Yeah, you'll save yourself a lot of heartache by just getting something good and seeing what the other guys are using.
All right. Any other tips and advice?
nothing too
Mm,
specific on the new stuff, at
Okay.
least. I know you got a lot of other questions that we could
Yep.
probably accidentally cover here.
mhm.
So
Yeah. So we did kind of answer this question already, but maybe we could dive a little bit deeper on this one too. So will the average person save any money by reloading ammunition?
would you call it the average competitive shooter or the average person in general?
That's a good question. So my opinion, as someone that doesn't reload as much but also compete, well, actually I shouldn't say that. For someone that does shoot a lot, I guess, I think you do save money in the long run. But I feel like you have to load at least 10,000 round to break even first. And then that's when you will start seeing how much you are saving. But you don't save much, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, the way I see it is you get a much better quality ammo for the
Hmm.
same price. Like if you were going to trying to find 9 mil for whatever 18 cents a round, you're going to be scraping the bottom of the barrel for ammo available out there. It's not going to be great. So you get better ammo. Yeah, that break even point tends to be around 10 to 12,000 rounds. Once you've loaded that much, your cost of your press and allied equipment is like involved, so it doesn't add cost to the future ones. But yeah, 10,000, 12,000 rounds a year, it really does pay for itself. You only tend to shoot more. You don't really start like pocketing extra money, but hey, now I can shoot 15,000 rounds where last year I only could afford 10,000.
Yeah.
And it really insulates you from the cost of ammo fluctuating too, because any reloader that's a smart reloader has a whole bunch of parts sitting in his house for ammo, primers, powder, stuff like that. So
Yeah, lots of knots. And so if we kind of break down the cost, like Tim was saying, like decent 9 millimeter ammo is about 25 cents per round right now. It always fluctuates, but it's like roughly 25 cents per round. Um, I am reloading 9 millimeter for as much as I bought, maybe around like 17 cents per round. How much are you guys spending per round you guys reload?
let me write them. See.
Me, I don't even know,
Cool,
man.
yeah, yeah,
I
you're cheating. So I mean, you barely count.
I got connections. So yeah, I don't even keep track of mine. Yeah. What
I
about
don't
you,
really
Tim?
keep track, but if I break it down, I'm around like 12 cents a round.
Nice, nice.
I mean, I do get deals on bullets. I'm sponsored by Brass
Mhm.
Monkey, so it's not like I'm paying full price. But even then, they're pretty. You can get bullets in the range of 6 to 7 cents a bullet from there, so it keeps the cost low. And then, I mean, for practice ammo, I'll kind of load whatever primers are available. For match ammo, I'll use Federals. That'll jump the cost quite a bit. But even with N320, it's only like 2 cents worth of powder in a round. So
Yeah, yeah. If I do my cost breakdown, let's see. So I think I paid like maybe like 7 cents per bullet. But primers, it was like 5 or 6 cents, so that's like 12, 13 cents, and then like 2, 3 cents for powder, and then the brass I can just reuse brass. So yeah, that puts me at like 16, 17 cents. So, yeah, economically, I mean, you're really only saving like 9, 10 cents per round. So if you're thinking about getting into reloading, when we're talking about like 9 millimeter, something very common, um, you guys have to understand like ammo manufacturers and ammo sellers, like the margin is like it's razor thin margins for ammunition. So as much as ammo costs suck, there's really not a ton of money into it. And so even people I've talked to who were manufacturing ammunition, they're getting out of it because the costs are just rising and they can't make any money at all in it. So some of the presses that I have is from people who are getting out of the manufacturing game. Um, the cost savings starts to come around when you start getting into some of the bigger stuff, the less common stuff. Like this is 50 Action Express for a Desert Eagle. So I can reload this. I think I'm reloading this for like 35 cents. Whereas if you were to buy it factory, you're looking at more like $3. So there's a lot of savings there if you want to shoot something like 50 Action Express or 500 Magnum, or even if you want to get into like 50 BMG, you can save a lot more money with the kind of the oddball stuff that's a little bit less popular. But yeah, for like 9 mil and like 5.56, 223, a little bit slimmer on the margins and how much you're saving.
Yeah, Tim brought up a good point about like making better rounds compared to
Hmm.
at the start. So, for example, right, if and it also depends on what the grain weight you want to reload. So, for example, at the store, they sell 147 grain for 9 millimeter, 147 grain for like $20 box, right? But then if you were to reload like a 147 or 150, you're pretty much paying like for 115 green. So
Hmm.
I think okay, so to be honest, I don't think you save money, but you because you're gonna spend more money, but you're paying less for like better quality, I guess,
Hmm.
if that makes
Hmm.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it comes back to the initial cost. So
Mhm.
like say your 750 with the with the dies, a scale, that other stuff, $2,000.
Mhm.
All right, so you load 12,000 rounds of 9 mil, and you save roughly $2,000. So now you're even, and now every more 10, 12,000 you load, you really are saving. But yeah, it's and and exactly back to your point, you get the ammo you want
Mhm.
for a price that is much cheaper to buy, especially if you get into heavy bullets or other calibers.
Oh,
Do you guys have like a set schedule where okay, this month I'm gonna stock up on this and then the next month I'm gonna stock up on this, or do you guys just buy everything at once?
It's been pretty slow lately. I noticed the prices on reloading stuff was starting to trickle down
hmm.
as the stock went up. Like as all the stores are back in stock on everything, they're still sitting at like $60 a pound for powder. And it's like, well, I'm just gonna wait you out. That's not gonna last forever. And I've been seeing it come down and a lot of sales lately, so I'm just holding out. But I'll buy what I need if I need something specific. But otherwise, I pretty much anytime I see something I use on sale is when I'll usually dive on it if it's a good sale.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, closer to COVID times, it was if it was in stock, I was buying it. So
Hmm. COVID times were ridiculous for ammo prices, even in the reloading space. It was bad. It was real bad.
I got plenty of federal primers. I paid 11 cents a piece for.
Oh, that's for
Yeah,
COVID
man.
times. That's not too bad. That's not too bad for COVID
No,
times.
it was pretty par for the course. You were just lucky to be able to buy them, let alone what they cost.
Uh-huh. I think I got some small pistol primers for like 15, 18 cents around that time, and ooh, that hurt. Yeah, and Ku, you're talking about, you can make some specialty ammo like the 147 grain. So for those of you listening and they don't really understand the difference between like the 115 grain versus like the 147 grain, essentially with like the pistol bullet stuff, um, typically for competition we like to shoot a little bit heavier bullet. 115 grain is going to be a faster bullet. So the 147 grain or the 137s are going to be they're going to be heavier bullet. It's going to be traveling a little bit slower. So depending on the gun, it can have a little bit softer recoil impulse. And so if you're shooting competition, that's something that we like. Something fun is this is 50 BMG. This is A pit armor piercing incendiary tracer. So I got these. These are actually deep milled. So this was pulled, and so something like this. I think I paid around like 50 cents per bullet for this. So I can reload armor piercing incendiary tracer all in all for maybe like a buck 50 compared to factory price, maybe like 5, 8, $10. So
Mm.
you can do a lot of cool stuff.
I got a question for both of you, and this might be a stupid question, but why is the lower the weight of the bullet require more gunpowder than the heavier bullet weight. So, for example, if I was to load 115 or 124, I use more gunpowder in there compared to like 137 and 147. Do you guys know why?
think it has to do with like the moment of inertia where the bullet starts to accelerate. With a lighter bullet, the powder is going to burn faster because the bullet's going to leave the barrel faster. It's pushing less weight. So to load that lighter bullet to the same power factor as a heavy one, you're going to need more powder because it's going to need to be able to burn that by the time it's out. It's going to go up faster out of the barrel. Much, I think, at least I might be talking crazy, but I at least know why like a heavier bullet feels softer, and it's almost always because there's less powder behind it.
Hmm.
Less there's less gas generated to generate recoil, and the heavier bullet spends more time in the barrel, so it spreads that recoil impulse over a slightly longer period of time.
Yeah. Yeah, I pretty much exactly what Tim said. That's pretty much my understanding of it as far as it goes. Just goes back to high school physics, right? Force equals mass times acceleration, right? So as your mass is decreasing, right, you're going to need more acceleration to get that equivalent force. So it's going to be
Mm,
more powder.
okay. So, in conclusion, if you want to get into reloading and save money, you should reload heavier bullets, pretty much.
Should reload what's on sale.
That's you. If you want heavier bullets, I, for example, don't really like to shoot heavier bullets. I like 147s. A lot of people swear by them, but personally, they feel slow to me. I feel like I'm waiting for my gun to return when I shoot those. I tend to like. Actually, this year I switched to 125s.
Mm,
Historically, I
Wow.
shot a lot of 130s and 137s, but I tried some 125s and did some testing over the winter, and actually really like how they return. At least in my specific gun, the stock master has a longer slide than the stock two, so different feel to it.
mm, interesting.
Nice. Nice.
All right. So for the next question, what are the best use cases for single stage, turn, and progressive presses?
I would say a single stage is somebody who loads like hunting ammo. You can absolutely save money with hunting ammo, big time. Like you start looking into some 300
Mhm.
Win Mag, and it's $2 or $3 a round. And you can reload that pretty
Mhm.
easily for sub $1, and all you
Oh,
need is a
actually,
single stage press.
quick question for you, Tim. So, can you explain to the audience what's the difference between a single stage, a turret, and a progressive press, in case anybody doesn't know the difference?
Yeah, absolutely. A single stage press will have like just a single spot for a single reloading die. So if you're gonna reload something start to finish, you'll need to change the die out for every step. You'll size and deprime. You change the die out. You will seat the primer by hand usually with a single stage press, and then for like pistol, you'll have to flare the bullet mouth with a separate die. Then you'll charge them by hand with powder, and then you'd have a bullet seating die, and ideally a seating and crimping die. A turret press kind of combines those. It's kind of the in between ground of a progressive press and a single stage. It'll like I have a Lee turret also I used for a little while, but it has the one I have has four holes, so you can get four dies, and you put your case in there, and upstroke, downstroke, it'll do every step of the way, and the tool head rotates. It'll drop the correct die into the right place, and it's definitely about 5 times faster than a single stage. But you're putting in one shell and you're setting a bullet, and then it's you usually got to take it out, or you can get a some 3D printed parts that'll kick the bullet out. And then you put in a new shell and all that, and then you get to a full on progressive like a Dillon where it'll put the shell in, it'll have a stationary tool head, and it'll rotate. I think the Dillon fits five pieces of brass in it at once, and it'll do every step every time you pull the handle, and it's just exponentially faster. So once you get the shell plate all full of cases, every pull of the handle spits out a loaded round, unlike truly progressive press like a 750.
Tim, what's your favorite type of press? Are you primarily using
Automated,
progressives? Oh yeah. I
automated,
just
automated progressive.
I just got mine. I love it.
Yeah, it's like such a game changer. It's a finicky beast, but as long as you don't mind tinkering with stuff, it works really well.
Yeah, so yeah, just kind of going off of that. I think Tim, you got a really good point then. Just kind of getting into it, you mentioned before, you can get a single stage press for like under $100. So this is a Lee single stage over here. So this one was pretty expensive. Actually, I picked this up used for like $40. And so something like this, you can do one round at a time, but I mean, you're just like you said, depending what you're doing. Pistol doesn't really require that many stages. Usually you can do like a resize and deprime in one stage. You can do powder charge in another stage, and then you can do a pistol seat. And then I like to do a crimp. So that's about four stages that I like to do for my pistol rounds. So something like this, it's gonna take a while, but it's very cost effective. And then that's why I gravitated towards the Elite Pro 1000 since that was a three-stage progressive, and so like Tim said, the progressive is every time you crank the handle, essentially you're making a new round of ammo. You just have to feed it bullets and then feed it casings. Um, but I love Lee because they're pretty innovative with how low they can do their pricing and how much value you get out of it, but you're gonna see that they're not the most reliable. Especially like the Lee Pro 1000. That one just uses so many plastic parts, and I swear I have broken every single part in that thing and I've replaced it. So I still have it to just do like small oddball stuff, but it mostly sits empty because um, I think like USPSA they do surveys and then for like the nationals, and I think the XL 750 from Dylan is probably the most popular by far, and so that's why I ended up picking one of those, and I absolutely love it. And then I got this is the this is the Frankfurt Arsenal X10, so I picked that one up. It's still I got it when maybe like 6 months after it came out, so it's got some issues. One of the issues is like the bearings that it uses. It's really easy to break it. So, if you kind of get stuck and you kind of power through it, you're going to crush the bearings and then everything's going to get knocked out of alignment. So they actually just did a Gen 2 upgrade kit that I ordered that's going to solve a lot of those problems. The Frankfurt Arsenal X10 has a 10, it has a it fits up to 10 dies in the tool head, which is pretty cool. Um, and the price is really low too. Like the an XL 750 with like bullet or like the case feeder is like around 2 grand. But the X10 is about like 1,000 is about what I paid for it. So I'm it's okay. I'm waiting for the upgrade kit because it just gets hung up way too much. And so I'm gonna see if that upgrade kit really fix it. The 750 is by far my favorite for a manual press, and then I've got my automated Dillon 1050, which it's got some quirks, but I'm figuring it out, and it's running pretty good. What about you, Koo?
Um, I don't know. I don't have an answer for this to be honest. Because my only experience I have with reloading is just the Lee Pro 1000 and the XL 750. So yeah, I don't have an answer for this question.
It's just that they work for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I definitely agree with Christian. Lee is a great value for what they
Mhm.
do. You can save money with them, but you're generally going to fight them. They're good for low volume reloaders, kind of just as a hobbyist. Like that's how I started reloading as a hobby. Like it was totally
Mhm.
separate from shooting. Like everybody has the idea, oh, I'm going to save so much money, but it was also fun and interesting. And Lee fit the budget right then. Like I had
Yes.
two really young kids. My son was just born. You don't got money when you got kids that young. It was tough. So it was well within the budget and gave me something to do. And I loaded a lot of 9 mil just in buckets. One bucket, do one step in the single stage. Got the full bucket, switch dies, do all the steps in the bucket, and that was a fun way to start out. And yeah, you can't beat the value, but Dylan definitely is the gold standard for volume reloading. Yeah, like most people in our position now don't reload for fun. They reload as part of something else, just purely from a logistical standpoint.
Mhm. You know what? I do have a lot of fun reloading though. I will admit,
I
I
still enjoy
just
it.
the process. I enjoy it.
It's really satisfying to me, honestly.
I hate it.
Tim, it's it's cathartic to just sit there and just crank out ammo. You know, just put on some music and then you just crank at it. It's fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah, back before I went automated, I still had like a Dillon 650 with a bullet feeder and a case feeder. So all I really had to do was keep it full and pull the handle. So I put a
Mm,
TV in the reloading room and I just watched just hours and hours of interesting YouTube stuff. And you get really good. And anytime something feels weird, you know what happened and
hmm.
you fix it, solve it. But yeah, I think I loaded back then. I was loading 30 to 40,000 rounds of 9 mil a year on the Dillon that way.
Damn.
And
Nice.
yeah, just sit down and bang out 1,000 rounds a night over the winter. And yeah, I still enjoy it. As you get into bigger and bigger volume, it gets a little, it wears on you, but I still get excited when I switch calibers and do something else, and I still definitely really enjoy it.
Tim, do you know about the Lee loader? Like the cheapest loading setup?
The one with the hammer, where I've
Yes.
seen those.
I was
I've
gonna
never
show
actually held one, but
a picture to Koo because I'm pretty sure Koo's never seen one before.
that's gonna blow his mind.
Koo, are you familiar with this? The
No,
Lee
never,
loader?
never heard of it or seen it. Wow.
No
This is an
reloading
all-in-one
press.
loading
It's
kit.
just some tools. Yep.
Mhm.
Damn.
Yep.
Is it
Everything's there.
is
It's
it
you need a
consistent?
hammer. I don't know. As consistent as you can be with a hammer, because literally that's all you use is you just use the hammer and you just bang the round to the die, bang the decapper, bang the bullet on, and then you bang the crimp or you bang the crimp on. Yeah,
Holy shit.
$40. Yeah, caveman reloading.
I'm
Yeah.
sure many people loaded a lot of ammo that way back when.
4.6 stars reviews though.
Does
Okay.
exactly
It's
the job it's supposed to do. Nothing
hmm
fancy.
hmm. You're not going to be fast, but you cannot beat that for the price.
Well, speaking of bullet feeder, Tim, do you prefer the bullet feeder or do you prefer a power die check?
Bullet feeder all day long. I have learned that the Dillon powder throw is the most reliable one in existence. I have never had a problem with the Dillon powder throw. I've had a
Mm,
problem with a few types of powder in the Dillon throw. Like we were loading some pistol with a really big, big sized shotgun flake powder. And we were getting inconsistencies there, but I really can't blame the Dillon for that. It's just less than ideal to use shotgun powder in pistol ammo. But yeah, like I said, I've loaded many hundreds of thousands of rounds and never had a problem with the Dillon powder throw. I started with the powder check because I was obviously nervous and concerned and all like that. But now I've grown to trust it. If something
yep.
breaks, then I know and I isolate some rounds. But other than that, yeah, it's bullet feeder all day.
I agree. I agree. That's why I got the double alpha Mr. Bullet Feeder mini. I
Hey,
don't
still does the job.
but to be honest, it's actually kind of useless too if you don't have someone to feed the tube
Beat it.
for you when it's empty. So for example, the only reason why I find it useful is because I also have two of my boys to help me when I reload. But if I was to do it by myself, like once the bullet tube runs out, you still have to spend a lot of time putting
Yeah.
feeding more bullets into the bullet tube anyway. So it's not worth it in my opinion, but it's worth it for me because I have my boys feed the bullet tube when it's empty, and then I just manually hand feed the bullet. So that's
Do the
how
boys reliably fill it up?
was that?
Do the boys like reliably help? My
Yeah.
kid, my son loves to help, but he only makes it like 10 to 15 rounds into something, and he's bored.
I
Like,
pay
oh, we've
them.
only got two
Yeah.
thousand left to do tonight, buddy.
Yeah, yeah, I pay my boys, so they have to do it, and yeah, they know that they have to do a good job for like at least an hour, or else they won't get money, for Roblox and stuff.
Hey, that works good. Yeah, absolutely.
I pay
That's
them
kind of cool.
$15.
I don't know. Sooner or later, you could just save that $15 and get a regular bullet feeder, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I know
Yeah.
somebody that 3D prints one right here in Minnesota, man. We can get you hooked up.
Okay. Okay.
Tim, are those any good? I've seen those. I just never thought about trying one.
They can be. You just gotta
Hmm.
like it's a good buddy of mine. So if you have any
Hmm.
problems, you get in touch with him and he can modify some parts pretty easily and stuff like that. But it's basically the same design and they
Nice.
can be good. I definitely wouldn't buy one on eBay, for example, but as long as
Hmm.
you know who's printing them and have contacts so you can adjust parts if needed and stuff, then they're pretty solid.
Gotcha. Have did you guys ever use the bullet feeder for like the Lee Pro 1000 series?
I don't think I've ever
Did you know
like
there
the
was
the
one?
tubes or
Yeah, they make one that let me see. Uh,
I think that's a lot like the one Kuba was talking
Yeah.
about, where it's like a
Yeah.
stick with
Yeah.
6 cylinders
Yep. So
and
it's
you fill them up.
yeah, it's pretty much like
it's
this.
it's like
Yeah.
that, but with those you have like a bullet feeder die. This one doesn't have a bullet feeder die. So actually I got one of these
Oh,
because it
okay.
has great reviews, but I could never get mine to work reliably. Okay. So here's how the crazy thing works. All right. So like the Pro 1000 only has three die slots, right? So,
Oh, interesting.
where do you put in the bullet feeder? You actually have the tube on the side, and you actually have fingers that feeds the bullets in and out. So you can imagine number one how reliable Leah's stuff is, but number two is that you got plastic fingers grabbing the bullet, feeding the bullet, grab the bullet, feed the bullet. It's when you get it working, it's crazy that it works for 30 bucks. A bullet feeder for 30
That's
bucks
pretty
that
cool.
works is amazing, but it's all plastic, so it's
And
really
then you
easy to
also have
break.
to feed the bullet feeder, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
You gotta
like
fill
Kue
the
was
tube.
saying, you got to feel it too. But when you get it working, it's kind of like the most amazing thing. But it's finicky. It's pretty finicky. But
Pretty
for 30
cool.
bucks, yeah, you're not. That's why I like Lee. Like I said, Lee is incredibly innovative. Like for the price, like that's super innovative. It's just the execution's not great. And then you kind of see like, yeah, that's kind of why reloading stuff is so expensive because to make it run well and to make it run reliably, it's unfortunately pretty pricey. So I love Lee
Absolutely.
stuff. I love their innovation, but um some of their stuff is not like the most reliable, but it's fun. It's really quirky and fun. I'll give them that.
I think now think about it. I think if it wasn't for the Lee Pro 1000, if it wasn't how shitty it was, I don't think I would have learned much.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I learned a
You're
lot.
forced to learn.
Yeah,
Yep.
yes. So I guess I do recommend the Lee brand to the first timer, so that way they could struggle with it and actually learn how to like fix it and understand the parts. Because if they go straight to Dylan Precision, like 750,
They won't appreciate it.
yeah, I don't think they would because right now I don't even appreciate it because it's so easy and it doesn't break as much. So I'm just like abusing it. But with the Lee Pro 1000, I was really cautious with it, and that's how I learned a lot with the Lee Pro.
For those of you watching, make sure you realize that Kusa doesn't break as much.
Yeah,
Because as great as they are, they still have hiccups every once in a while.
all right. So for the next question, what do you guys look for when you guys are selecting a reloading press?
With Dylan, it's their reputation. You know, they've got probably the best reputation in the business, especially with the 650, 750s, because they basically carry a lifetime warranty. You know, that's been huge. That's everything I read when I was looking at buying one. I've broken a few of the bigger parts on one, and they've sent me new ones, basically no questions asked.
Nice.
And then it's just the capability. You know, I look at it, say, okay, you can fit the bullet feeder, you can do that, and if you're looking at doing other stuff, once you get to rifle, you're looking at like the 1050 or the 1100 that it can swage on the press and have enough room to do the other stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you too. I think that's one thing that a lot of people tend to overlook is that, just how popular it is because especially with the Dylan series, since that tends to be the choice for a lot of the high level competitive shooters, there's a ton of parts that you can get for it. I know like Double Alpha Academy, like, they make a lot of parts for like the 750. There's a lot of customizations you can do. It's very well understood. And there's, it, like I was saying, if you run into any kind of weird hiccups, anything that the machine can't handle, probably somebody already made a fix for that, and that's kind of the cool part about getting to some of the more popular machines. Something like the Frankfurt X10, it's kind of newer to the market. The price is great, coming in about half of what the 750 is, but it's still kind of they're kind of moving into their second gen, and so I'm gonna test to see if that second gen upgrade kit, if that kind of fix a lot of the problems I have. So yeah, I would absolutely recommend a Dylan product if for somebody like to get into it. But if you're really budget minded, then Lee is my go-to. It's not the best. It's pretty quirky, but it'll mostly get you where you're trying to go.
Speaking of Dylan, so I have only experience with Dylan and Lee, so I don't know about the other brands, but do you guys feel like Dylan is a money grabber? Like all their like equipments and add-ons are just so freaking expensive, man. Like for example, for the Allen wrench, it's $40. Like who the fuck want to pay $40 for like some Allen wrenches when you could just use
I got
regular?
one of those sets. They
Okay.
were blue, man. They look so cool.
What can it do that a
Uh,
regular heavy duty Allen wrench can't do?
Absolutely nothing.
Coo, coo. Okay, this
Dylan
is
also makes
Dylan.
those.
This is Dylan.
Dylan
Okay,
Arrow.
people
Yep.
people don't understand that when we say Dylan, this is also Dylan. Dylan makes the M134 minigun, and this is the Dylan Quad M134 minigun. That's why your stuff is so expensive because they got to make these, dude.
You got to pay for all the ammo on test fires.
Yes.
Yeah,
But I
I
mean,
yeah.
Dylan's a lot more expensive, but you're getting, at least with
Hmm.
the 750, you're getting that lifetime warranty. You
Okay.
know,
Absolutely.
it's definitely
Absolutely.
getting what you pay for, and the machines are extremely well designed and very
Hmm.
robust. It shows when you start using one. You really appreciate them. If you've used like a lot of Lee stuff before, you're like, oh wow, this
Hmm.
is super nice. I see why it's so
Hmm.
expensive.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, like in my opinion, I feel like Dylan is too much
Hmm.
of a money grabber. Like that's why I haven't got a case feeder yet.
Well, the accessories. Yeah, like you can 3D print case feeders too, man. It's all out there. You just gotta
Hmm.
take the chance. If you buy a Dylan case feeder, you know it's gonna work.
Hmm.
And if
Okay.
it doesn't, make it right. You buy a 3D printed case feeder, it might not work, and then what happens, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I'm just being cheap.
Oh, I don't blame you. At some point, you're paying for convenience, is what it boils down to with everything.
Okay, how about this? Since we're talking about parts, so you know how the Dylan it comes with the ball handle uh
Yeah,
stick,
just the
right?
ball end handle
Yeah.
with
Oh,
the
I
rubber.
hate that. Yeah.
Is it really okay, since you hate it, is it really necessary to buy the one with the just
Yes.
the
The
bar?
roller
Why?
handle.
Why?
Dude, there's a reason the Reloader 1100 comes with the roller handle. It
Hmm.
doesn't even come with the ball handle. It's so necessary.
Man, but for $75 though?
I probably have one. I'll sell you for 50.
I don't know. I feel like $50 is still too expensive for a bar,
I'll tell
man.
you. I'll have you call me back when you get your volume up there a little more. Then your hands sore from that silly little ball.
Oh, you are still using the little ball. Oh,
Yeah.
cool. You gotta get to the roller handle. Like
I'm
It's so nice.
it's a game changer.
I mean, I've been loading for I load 20,000 so far, and I don't know. I don't see the purpose of
How much do you
buying
do
the
at one time? I guess would be the question. Like
okay.
are you seem to kind of load as you shoot? Is that kind of what I gathered?
Oh, what's that?
You kind of load as you shoot it, or do
Yep,
you
yep,
really
yep,
stockpile a lot of
yep.
loaded ammo?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's what would make the biggest difference. Like I try to do all of my reloading from like November to February.
Okay.
Boom, bang, done. I don't want to have to be loading ammo in like July when I could be enjoying or being out shooting it instead. So it's like I was doing really high volume in tight amount of time. Like back with a hand press, I was doing at least 1,000 rounds a night, and I
Mm.
try to do that just as often as possible. Sometimes 2,000, 3,000 a night, and yeah, you start to get calluses. Your right arm gets bigger than your left arm, just ridiculous.
Hey, but my right arm is bigger than my left arm by not reloading, is by doing something else.
For other reasons.
Oh, geez.
This is a family-friendly podcast.
Not anymore.
Well, since it's about guns, it's not it won't be for kids. So
From all
you
that
two won't,
strong heavy
yeah.
shooting.
You
Yeah,
have your kids making ammo with you.
I'm talking about shooting with my right hand, man. What are you talking about, dude?
Oh yeah, that grip strength. You're not supposed to be gripping with your right hand.
That is true. All right, next question. How important is breast prep for reloading?
Yeah, Tim, what does your brass prep look like for pistol and rifle?
I like to go like OCD, shiny, looking new, mostly because I'm able to. It makes it easier to like handle, keeps the press cleaner. So when I pick up all my range brass, whatever, I'll wet tumble it. And then lately, since I'm automated across the board here, I'll run it through and size deprime, swage it, and then with rifle, I've got it set up. I can trim and chamfer on the press, and then I'll usually dry tumble it in like walnut. I actually got a cement mixer just for dry tumbling because we use so much of it. But dry tumble, it's nice because then you clean the case lube off. I still do run a little bit of case lube on 9 mil just because it saves on the press, is my feel, and it leaves the brass looking nicer. So dry tumble afterwards, and yeah, the once I load the ammo, it basically looks like factory new ammo. I love to have shiny brass.
What case loop do you use for a 9 mil? Because I tried using this in one shot and it didn't seem to really work that great or make my reloading any smoother.
Generally, I use one shot. I just use if when I was loading by hand, I'd use a lot of one shot.
Uh-huh.
I've done
Hmm.
some pretty exhaustive testing, and it doesn't affect primers or powder. Like you can spray it right in a case with a primer in it and load it with powder, and it'll
Hmm.
shoot just fine. It's a
Hmm.
non-petroleum base as far as I can
Hmm.
tell. So I've never had an issue there. And yeah, when I was doing it by hand, I used a lot of one shot because it really saves your
Huh.
shoulder when you're cranking out a lot of ammo. Usually, I would take like
Gotcha.
a small bucket, maybe like an ice
Hmm.
cream gallon
Hmm.
container, and put it half full and
Hmm.
a couple seconds of one shot, shake it up a couple more seconds, and then into the case feeder. And it definitely makes a good difference on the amount of effort required to size. Now I do it just because it tends to keep the dies run smoother
Hmm.
too. But I've
Hmm.
noticed with no lube, eventually you get some brass buildup in sizing dies, and you
Yeah.
start putting scratches in cases, which doesn't affect their usage, but it looks
Hmm.
gross. So, and then
Gotcha. I'm
with like 223 556, I actually use that homemade lanolin and alcohol mixture because you need a much more aggressive lubricant for rifle sizing because it's so much harder to size them effectively.
I was gonna ask about that because I know a lot of guys who do that because it's pretty easy and quick to mix it up yourself.
Yeah, and it's way cheaper. Like I tried one shot,
Hmm.
and you have to use so much one shot. It's
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
even funny. And I finally bit the bullet and did it because I was. It's just I think a year ago I got all this stuff to
Hmm.
process rifle brass on my automated press,
Hmm.
and I kept hitting the limit clutch because it was just like not enough case lube. I was like, I need to make that.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried this stuff. I actually had I think Dylan makes a case lube that's effectively just lanolin and alcohol, but it's like $10
Hmm.
for 10 ounces. Something
Yeah.
crazy, really expensive.
Yeah.
Works really good. So I just got the alcohol and the lanolin, and it ends up being like $3 for a 16-ounce spray bottle of your own
Yeah.
mix, and it works fantastic. You just got to dry tumble it off, I find. Otherwise, it gets sticky.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, Dylan, they gotta get a couple more quad miniguns, so they're gonna
Hey
upcharge
man,
you.
you're paying for convenience. Some
You
people
are.
don't want to mix it on their own like a mad scientist in their
Mhm.
basement.
That's
But
true.
let's be real, that's what we're doing with reloading. We're all mad scientists now. I love it.
Absolutely. I'm gonna have to take your advice on that. I'm gonna have to try. I'm probably not using enough one shot because in my automated 1050. it gets kind of sticky when it's going down, and especially when you're trying to do the case flare, so it gets a little bit
Yep.
sticky. So I'm probably have to do what you're saying and use a lot more one shot.
Yeah, and that's the only downfall with that. That gets pretty expensive too.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
start using one shot, but it's if you're doing that, if you're not loading and processing in the same pass, I'd say use the
Hmm.
lanolin mixture. You just got to tumble it off afterwards.
Mm. Gotcha, gotcha.
So, in my opinion, speaking specifically for 9 millimeter only, I don't know about the other calibers, but before I knew that Tim was selling brass, I don't think it was that important to like prep your brass. um, because for example, right, if I pick up the case from the indoor range, I don't even clean them or anything. I just reuse it right away. Unless I pick them out from outside, then that's when I clean it. But I don't
Uh-huh.
actually use anything uh that's reloading brand. So for example, I just
Hmm.
put it in a bowl, right? And then I
Hmm.
use water and dish soap and wash it by hand like I'm washing rice. And after that, I just dry it. I don't know if that's
Well, that
good or
certainly
not.
certainly works. It does the job. Yeah, you
Yeah.
want to make sure you don't get any sand in your dyes, but if it's shot indoors, it's really about aesthetics and just how much it takes less effort if they're clean and lubricated. It saves your shoulder, just high volume things. And then for the longest time, I just used Blue Dawn dish soap and
Yeah.
Let Me
Hmm.
Shine, the dishwasher additive. That got brass
Same here.
really clean when I wet tumbled it.
Same.
Recently, I've tried those Frankfurt Arsenal like Tide Pods. They make little pods. You dump
Yeah.
one in their big wet tumbler. It works fantastic. Like blew me away how well it works. It's well worth
Mm.
the whatever $1 per thing because I found you can use it. You can save the liquid from one tumbled and put it into another one, and it works just as good a second time.
Oh, wow. I might have to try
And then
that.
it's cut my tumbling time too. When I used to tumble with like the dish soap, I'd probably
Uh-huh.
do the whole 3 hours on that big Frankfurt tumbler,
Hmm.
and they'd come out pretty clean. I could do 1 hour with the Frankfurt little Tide Pod, and it looks like brand new brass.
Mm.
Wow. Tim, where are you getting all your bass from? Are you like collecting it all yourself or like a little roller on the ground?
A lot of the stuff we pick up outdoors. Like
Hmm.
lately, I've been hosting Ben Stoger usually twice a year for his
Uh-huh.
classes.
Yeah.
So that's a really
Nice.
good source of brass. You get
Nice.
20 people shooting 2,000 rounds in
Yeah.
2 days. Me and a couple guys will split up what we pick up from the indoor range. I help
Hmm.
run a indoor match. That's I think every 2 weeks in the winter. So we do pretty good with brass there. I've leaned towards
Nice.
making the stadium bigger because then we get more brass afterwards.
Yeah.
So
Little
imagine
pro
this,
tip.
Christian. Imagine this, Christian. So at the Tim's indoor matches, right? There's
Hmm.
about what, like 100, 120 people
Yeah, we're
come and
seeing a
shoot one
hundred
night,
hundred people
and then
Really?
they shoot about what? How many rounds? Close,
on
like, cause
average, 50 or
yeah,
60. 50
yeah.
or 60.
So imagine that.
Cool.
That's a
Get
lot.
5,000 pieces of brass in a night.
How
I
how
usually
many
anybody who wants to. What's that?
how many bays do you guys have at that indoor range?
Just two. So we do two stages, and they'll usually be between 18 and 28 rounds each. And then some people shoot twice, like
Yeah.
for however they register twice. But I think our biggest we saw was 106 shooters.
Wow.
So pretty awesome. It gets
Yeah.
pretty crazy.
Nice.
And it's a
But there's nothing else to do in the winter here. So
I think they call it shoot and scoop, meaning like you come in, you pay,
Hmm.
you shoot, and then you can leave. So that's how,
yeah, it's not a
yeah,
traditional
yeah.
squatted format. So that's how we run this mini shoot after.
Oh,
We have little sign up
wow.
sheets.
Hmm.
You go to the counter, you pay, you get in. There's a sign up sheet. You put your name in the next open spot. They call your name. You shoot, and then after that, you can leave if you want. You stick around and pace and help out and shoot the breeze.
Yep.
Go register again and shoot again if you want. And
Wow.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
we need
That's
that over here.
yeah. That's how they get through 100 shooters in like 3 hours. Yeah.
yeah, it gets pretty wild when we get that many shooters.
Yeah.
It's a busy night for the staff people, me included, but it's fun. We get a
Yeah.
lot of new people, and it's a really good way to get new people into matches.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah, we need that over here.
All right. Next question will be, what are the accuracy difference between factory and reloaded ammo?
It can be pretty noticeable. Generally, I never did much inaccuracy testing because most of the time I'm in too much of a rush and my gun's more accurate than I am. I use the whole A zone because that's what's there
Hmm.
usually. But I've got a buddy, Luke Faust. He works at Federal. He's done some really exhaustive testing on factory ammo and reloaded ammo. We were messing around. He found out that brass monkey bullets, 147s, are possible to be just as accurate as that Federal gold medal match pistol ammo, like sub two
Wow.
inch groups at 25 yards. Just
Wow.
takes correct loading and correct case prep and things. They're basically they were performing just as good as Precision Delta jacketed bullets for about half the price. That was
Wow.
pretty impressive. So that was cool that he got bored over the winter and did all that. And yeah, like I just want to be able to keep alphas at 25 yards is my accuracy standard. But
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Have you let's see, so I just recently started seeing more of like the brass monkey bullet stuff because I stocked up on a lot of the blue bullets. Have you used those before?
yeah, they're definitely a great bullet. They got
Hmm.
a really robust coating. They were
Hmm.
probably the top bullet for a long time.
Hmm.
Their prices have went up much like everything has, and Brass Monkey has been able to keep their prices a little bit lower for base just basically an equivalent product. I won't lie. I think Blue Bullet's coating might be 10% better than Brass Monkey.
Hmm.
It is what it is, but it's not necessarily worth the increase in price to the Blue Bullets from Brass Monkey. I'm obviously sponsored by Brass Monkey, so take it for what it is. But I started shooting Brass Monkeys in 2020, like peak COVID times. I was looking for bullets. Nobody had bullets in stock anywhere.
Hmm.
Couldn't find any. I found this
Hmm.
little company, Brass Monkey Bullets. I actually picked up the phone and called them. I'm like, your website that says these are in stock. Are they actually in stock? And he said, yep. So I ordered online and they got to my house 2 days later. Just
Nice.
wild. And that's been the biggest thing is that he keeps up on and I always harp on him. I'm like, don't change your shipping. He's if it's on the website, it's in stock and it ships almost same day when you order it. He's had some problems with the post office. I think they're getting
Yep.
Hmm.
sick of the amount of bullets he's pushing
Yep.
through them, so they're
Yes.
dragging their feet. We've had
Yep.
some packages take like a week to get there, but it's on the post office end, not on his. But he's been able to keep his prices very low and very competitive. I think there's some of the best price bullets available right now for a very good product.
Nice. Nice. I haven't tried any, but I've definitely got to order some for my next batch.
You
That's
did,
really
dude.
cool.
You did try it. I gave you
Oh yeah,
a
I
mag.
shot. Okay,
Yeah.
I've shot one mag. I've shot one mag.
Uh,
That's true.
they probably won't be much different, honestly. They'll be pretty much the same. You save a little money over a long term.
Hmm.
They do look cool. That's what I like about him with his
Hmm.
most recent color. He did that black and white
Hmm.
stormtrooper camo, he calls it. They're pretty cool. So,
Those are neat. Those are really neat. Yeah, and I guess if I just kind of put some of my input into it, the question of is reloaded ammo more accurate than factory ammo? Um, Depends. Especially like we're talking a lot about pistol stuff right now. Pistol stuff, um, the gun tends to be more accurate than the shooter, especially with the type of shooting that we're doing. And so, like you said, even though the pistol can maintain about a 2 inch group at like 25 yards, you said like Luke was getting, with kind of like the speed shooting we're doing, or I don't think that very few of us are maintaining 2 inches at 25 yards. So the guns tend,
I've never had the patience to shoot any good
yeah.
groups. It's not me.
Yeah, I think absolutely when you get into like the rifle stuff, pretty much any of the rifle competitors, they're all reloading, and they've got like an arcane reloading sequence of this insane brass prep and fire forming the brass and annealing and measuring ogive. It's I don't even really fully understand it myself. I've tried to slowly kind of get into it, but it's still way, way above my head. I don't know if you've done any of
Yeah,
that
it's pretty
stuff.
cool.
Accurate.
I've de- yeah, I definitely have. I
Hmm.
kind of delved into that before I got into
Hmm.
USPSA, just trying to make the most accurate loads
Hmm.
possible. You get things like primer pocket uniforming. They've got
Hmm.
special reamers to make all the primer pockets the same size, and you can uniform the flash hole from the inside of the case with a little tool, and then trim them all to the exact same length and chamfer the case mouth in and out, and then load the exact same length. I mean, I've got a 6.5 Grendel gas gun that I was getting like quarter MOA groups out of with my hand loads,
Wow,
which was pretty fun. It was pretty impressive. I was always happy with that one.
that's incredible.
And that was kind of funny. It's actually with a hunting bullet. I tried a lot of different bullets. Like I went with the standard Hornady
Hmm.
ELD from the get go, and I could
Hmm.
barely get them to group under one MOA. I was about to give up on the gun. Like, oh, it sucks. And I got a couple more bullets, and it's like the Hornady SST, like full on hunting bullet, is what I'm
Hmm.
shooting quarter MOA with. I'm like, well, that's double purpose. Now it's hunting ammo too. So pretty cool.
Oh, that's incredible. You haven't done any like PRS matches, have you?
No, nothing like that. I've with a little bit of rifle I've shot. I find it really hard
Mhm.
to be patient enough. Like you need rifle
Mm.
shooting. It's a whole nother ball game from the pistol shooting I'm used to. I'm like flash of sight picture and pull the
Hmm.
trigger. And
Hmm.
it's definitely been a learning curve. I've been shooting a little bit more rifle, shooting a lot of two gun, PCSL two gun. So it's not like PRS. It's the smallest they can go is a 8 MOA target at 200
Mm.
yards. So nothing crazy
Mhm.
at all. But even that, it's a whole different trigger pull than a paper
Yeah.
target at 10 yards. You know,
Oh, absolutely. And so for those watching, they don't really know what we're talking about. So PRS that's Precision Rifle Series. So that's going to be more like your sniper kind of rifle matches where you're going out to like maybe 1200, maybe farther than 1200 yards. And so those are taking place at very specialized stages. Whereas a lot of like the rifle stuff that you do, Tim, it's going to be um, like under 25 pretty much for most of that stuff.
I would say under 50 on average
Mm-hmm.
is the
Hmm.
majority of it where possible. Like I
Hmm.
host my club hosts a two gun match and we have a
Hmm.
100 yard base. We always try to put some steel at 100 yards.
Nice.
It's not small
Nice.
steel by any means.
Hmm.
And the way our rifle matches, it's not about if you can hit the steel, it's about how
Hmm.
fast you can hit the steel. We try
Mm.
to That's a kind of a core tenet of that PCSL two gun that
Hmm.
Max Leo Grandis made. It's making keeping it accessible to people with off the shelf
Mm.
rifles and off the
Hmm.
shelf ammo. Like when you get into PRS, you need custom built rifles, custom hand loaded ammo, and it's insane accuracy is what they're
Hmm.
testing versus like PCSL two gun is all about speed and points,
That's nice.
much
I
like
keep telling
USPSA.
oh no, that's really cool stuff. I keep telling Koo that if I so my goal is if I make A class in USPSA, then I'm gonna jump into PRS. And he gets kind of upset when I say that
Nice.
because all that work just
Yeah.
wasted.
It's gonna be, yeah, that'll be a tough switch over. I feel like, ooh,
Yeah.
Whole different
you'll
game.
just be you'll just be learning how to go fast and get wild to make A class, and then slam the brakes on.
Exactly. Exactly. I feel like half of it is just going to be learn how to properly reload.
Absolutely.
And I think you'll spend way more money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
A lot more money.
You'll be buying bullets that are $1 a piece to reload, just a bullet.
I know. I look at the price of those PRS guns and I mean like 10, 15,000 is pretty normal for those guns. If
Wild
not
stuff.
more. If not more.
Yeah, Christian, if you want to get to rifle shooting, I say just try out like two gun or three gun matches
Hmm.
because even at 100 yards, that's very hard to hit, especially when you try it when the sport is about speed.
Hmm.
Even a 100-yard target, that's very hard because
Hmm.
you have to like you're just not shooting. because you have to shoot constantly, like
Mhm.
25 to like 15, and then you have to
Mhm.
switch over to 100. So I feel like I'm not saying anything bad about like long precision shooting. It's just that if you want to, I feel like have more fun, then two gun and three gun would be the way to go.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
A lot
save
more
more money.
practical,
Yeah.
like it's in the
Yeah.
name, where
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
PCSO is practical
Yeah.
shooting, practical competition shooting league. Like that 200 yards and in is pretty practical
Yeah.
for any kind of scenario you'd find yourself in, where
Yep.
like an 8 MOA target is 16 inches. That's slightly smaller than humanoid size at 200 yards, and that's going to be well above any average person's skill level to
Yep.
hit that kind of stuff at anything resembling fast.
Yep.
Well, cool. I'm doing it for my inner 12-year-old who played too much Battlefield growing up. So
Nothing wrong with
I
that.
want, yes, I want to do some sniper matches. That's what I want to do.
I mean, if you want to do sniping stuff, you can always join the military.
I mean, you
It's
can
too
just
late.
buy
I think I'm a little too old.
you can just get an accurate rifle and shoot little tiny groups on your own time without spending quite as much money. That's what I
Tim,
did in a lot of
oh,
my early reloading days was like just tinkering with loads on a 308 bolt gun or the 6.5 gas gun and just try and shrink those groups.
yeah, I agree. So Tim, I have a question for you. So, did you notice any difference between for the small pistol primer? Did you notice any difference between the regular one and the Magnum? Because I could be wrong, but with my experience, I feel like the Magnum actually have a softer recoil, or what is that just me?
I've seen some pretty exhaustive testing on this, and I've done some myself. For Federals, for example,
Yep.
I've noticed no appreciable difference, like none whatsoever. We've put it on chrono. We see no difference on on bullet speed from regular to small pistol Magnum. But in some primer brands, the small pistol Magnum, the actual primer cup, the material will be thicker, so
Mm,
you might get a less chance at ignition. Like I run lighter hammer springs in my match guns, so whereas I'll reliably ignite CCI small pistol primers, they might not so reliably ignite a CCI small pistol Magnum. That's usually the Magnum designation will mean it might have more priming compound, so it's kind of a hotter primer spark, but also that it has a thicker metal to deal with higher pressure rounds,
mm,
like your 357 Magnum. That'd be case in point for using a small pistol Magnum primer that's much higher pressure developed with those rounds versus your standard 9 millimeter.
mm. Okay. All right. Well, maybe it's just me then. Yeah, because I don't know. I feel like when I shoot the Magnum, I just feel like it just has less recoil, even though the Chrono has the same result. You know what I mean? So
That's
I don't know.
interesting.
Maybe it's just
I mean,
me.
hey, if it works for you, it works, right?
We'll do a
There's some
blindfold test,
magic
Koo.
and some voodoo.
Or,
Hit it with the
We'll do a
blindfold.
blindfold
There you
test.
go.
or maybe I'm just trying to make myself feel better because Federal sells them the Magnum and I got them for pretty cheap. So
Hey
yeah.
man, I've bounced all over the place with different bullet weights. One day I'm like, ooh, this bullet weight feels better. And you run with it and use whatever confidence it gives you. It doesn't matter whether it's real or not. As long as it makes you feel better, run it, man.
Yeah. All right. So for the next question, is reloading a necessity for shooting sports?
I think unless you're like independently wealthy, yes. Um, I know a lot of people that don't reload, but they tend to be a little older and have like more stable financially, much more able to spend the kind of money. I know if I were to go out and try to buy factory ammo for what I shoot, it would be very difficult. I would not get to shoot the same way I do. 'Cause, it definitely would start to add up, especially with like the volume of rifle I'm shooting, practicing and shooting two gun. You tend to save more money reloading rifle ammo. Um, I think it's definitely a necessity if you want to be serious about it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So like if you're just shooting here and there, I wouldn't recommend. you get into like reloading. But if you're shooting consistently, like almost every single week, then I do recommend getting to reloading.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
for
That's
example, let's say
oh,
you're a
go ahead, Ted.
serious competitor. You're a serious competitor in shooting, and you're buying one type of factory ammo because you don't really want to mix up the ammo you shoot. You get used to ammo. That's what you practice with. What do you do when that company closes or discontinues that line you have?
Mhm.
It kind of could throw a wrench into things. And then if it's not as available, or if the price goes up, stuff like that, you really are able to insulate yourself from price jumps with reloading, especially if you're smart and stockpile stuff.
So when you say you're doing two gun, are you running 223 rifle for two gun?
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of your standard super gamer gun, bunch of go fast parts like lightweight bolt carrier and unrivaled technologies comp, all that fun stuff. And then I actually had one of my Tamfolios. I had a Milla single port compensator on the end, so I load, and that's another reloading hack. I load 115 grain bullets really hot, like 1,300 feet per second, because they
Woo,
will generate more gas and they'll run that comp. It feels like a real open gun at that point.
nice. So how much are you reloading 223 for? Because factory is about like what, 40, 45 cents right now for 223.
I say on a good day with nothing special, like just 55 grain bullets for
Mm-hmm.
punching holes in cardboard, we're probably around 20 cents,
Nice.
maybe even
Nice.
a little bit less. It's just powder dependent. Powder hasn't been
Mm-hmm.
cheap for that, so you're kind of stuck in there, and it's usually 12 to 15 cents in
Mm-hmm.
powder in those. But I've been able to get 55 grain bullets for like 4 cents a piece, and then
Nice.
if you're in that 4 cents a primer range, I found a really good deal on some rifle primers. So I bought what 15,000 of them, stuff like that.
Nice. Yeah, yeah. I think there's definitely a ton of savings when it comes to rifle calibers. I think pistols where it's real slim in the margins.
Definitely.
All right, we're down to our last three questions. So the question is, have you seen any dangerous incident because of bad reloading ammunition?
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know anybody who probably hasn't seen it. I mean, you get people that don't pay attention, and especially if you run a powder like tight group, it's very small amount of powder required per round, so you could easily double charge it and not even notice. I've seen people blow up their gun because they had like a double charge round or even a squib. This reloading is definitely something you got to take seriously.
Hmm.
That goes back to my thing. If you think something weird happened with a round, if you've got any reason to think it got double charged or no powder, get rid of it, take it apart, save the pieces, don't shoot it. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I've had one squib in my entire reloading career, and I knew
Really?
it was
Only
there.
one. Nice.
Yes, and I knew it was there too. I was reloading one night, and something weird went on. I disconnected the
Mm-hmm.
return rod on the powder throw on the Dillon,
Mm-hmm.
and then I don't know how many press strokes I went, but I realized I never hooked it back up. So I'm like, oh no, there is almost for sure a squib, and I had the bin on the press, so there's probably like
Uh-huh.
120 rounds in it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was like, okay, let's put those in a bag, and I saved them for like checking
yeah,
zeros, slow fire.
yeah.
Like the third to last round was one squib. I was ready for it, but yep, it was there.
Yeah, I had one squid one time when I was training with Ben Angiston. What happened was, so we were a stock and barrel, right? So he was like kind of, showing me the ropes, and then I shot around, and it was a squid load. So luckily, the next round, it didn't chamber. It just got stuck there, and if it didn't get stuck, by the chamber, then I would have fired it, and I would have blow up my shadow too. So
Yeah, that's always best case. If you get lucky and you don't have any
yeah,
powder in it, usually the bullet won't get pushed far enough in that it'll let the next round
yeah,
chamber. That's why you see some people like if you get a jam, whack the back of the slide
yeah.
and push it in the battery. That's not the best idea because you could possibly chamber around on top of a squib, and then really bad things happen.
So luckily that wasn't during a match because that's what I would have done at a match. I would have like just tap
Yep,
and rack.
exactly.
So maybe God was on my side that day. So yeah,
I
that
mean,
was very scary, man. That was very scary. And the Shadow 2 is my most expensive gun.
it also gave you an experience where kind of you have an idea of what it feels like now. You pull the
Uh
trigger and it makes a little sound, a little bit of smoke
Hmm.
maybe, but it doesn't
Hmm.
crack the case out. It's kind of
it
a learning experience.
I couldn't tell the difference.
Hmm.
Ben stopped me. Ben was like, hey, how about we check the gun first?
Yeah, sometimes it's the person outside that's
Yeah.
watching. I've stopped a few people during matches in the
Hmm.
past where I'm like, hey, that sounded really not good. Let's
Hmm.
stop you and check that out. I mean, USPSA has a good rule system
Yeah.
for that.
Hmm.
If the RO stops you because they think there was a squib and there isn't, you get to
Yeah.
reshoot. If they stop you and there is a squib, you don't get to reshoot, but that's your fault for loading shitty
Yeah.
ammo, I guess. But either way, they potentially save you from
Yeah.
a problem. And like, yeah, like I've even called stop for people when I wasn't like directly the RO in charge. Like, you don't necessarily have to be. I would much rather somebody call it and be safe.
Yeah.
That's one of those things you can do. You once you hear one, you kind of always remember it. It sticks in your mind. You're like, whoa, that didn't sound right.
Yeah. What about you,
Yeah, I,
Christian?
oh yeah, yeah. So fun story. Okay, so I've actually had two. So the first one, a couple years ago, I was taking a Modern Samurai Project class, and so I had probably like what Tim was saying. I reload with tight group, and so tight group it's a very fast powder, which means that you really only need like a tiny amount of powder, and it's very easy to double, maybe even triple charge it, depending on the case. And so I had a extra loud bang. And so all of a sudden, my gun wouldn't go to slide lock anymore, and it was jammed up. And so I got the gun cleared. Turned out that there was a bulge in the barrel, and this one like Glock 19. And so that one, yeah, so that one was probably like a double charge, and so it had a bulge in the barrel. So thankfully, it was only the barrel. Barrels aren't too bad for Glocks, like $100. Uh, and then just like the day before I was leaving from Minnesota to go shoot with you guys, um, I was setting up my Mark 7, my 1050 automated machine. And so, just kind of as you're tinkering with it, you have to like stop and then kind of wiggle things around. And so I got a double charge in there and I blew up my Glock 34. It looked like a big burn, like right there on my
Oh
hand.
man,
Mm.
Yeah, so the slide was actually perfectly fine. So the barrel slide, the upper half of the gun was perfectly fine. It was just the bottom half. So it destroyed the slide stop. It destroyed the mag release. And there's a good chance that if I just replace the slide stop and the mag release, that it actually might be okay. Yeah, I haven't taken a look at it since I just got back like the other day. But yeah, you absolutely have to be paying attention. And Tim, you actually made a really good point. That's something I was trying to do is that since primers come in a 100 pack, I try to load 100 at a time, and then I have a little ammo checker, and so I try to check them. Make sure that it's got a primer. You don't have any flipped primer. Make sure that everything looks correct. And so if sometimes that happens, like you disconnect the powder, and then you start loading, and then you just realize that, oh, okay, I have a bin full of potentially bad rounds. And so rather than some guys, they just reload like all their rounds and they have like a chute that goes like right into a bucket. And so you may have like 2,000 rounds into a bucket, and where does the bad start and the good begins? But if you only do like
yeah,
100 at a time, then you get a pretty decent idea. And so you only have to pull 100 bullets rather than pulling 2,000 bullets. And yeah, I've had to pull like 400 before, and it's a pain in the butt. But just being a little bit smarter about it has saved me some heartache.
absolutely.
All right, next question is what are some of your favorite calibers to reload?
Oh man, this one goes back. I haven't reloaded a lot of these in a while, but when I was like big into it, I really liked 10 millimeter. Just trying to make absolutely the hottest, fastest 10 millimeter load I could come up with and not break anything. That was the cool part about reloading is I could just buy guns in just obscene calibers that I had no business. with because I could reload them for really cheap. Like I'd cast bullets for back before they turned wheel weights into zinc. You could cast your own bullets out of lead wheel weights. So I would cast bullets for like 44 Magnum and 10 mil and like 458 SOCOM. That's a phenomenal, awesome, fun round. 458 SOCOM. I've got some bullets. I would cast a 550 grain lead bullet for
Woo!
that. You can get it doing like 1,200 feet per second, and oh man, it'll just knock over your target stands if you're shooting steel chest plates. It's
I was
hilarious.
I was gonna say that is a thumper right there.
Oh, it's so fun. But yeah, that's one where that was a really interesting learning curve because when I was doing that, there really wasn't much in the way of published load data for that. So you'd have to start chronoing every shot and establishing like, okay, it's not going too fast. My case isn't showing pressure signs, stuff like that. You get into some pretty advanced stuff that you really got to take slow and be careful with. But it was really fun and really interesting.
What are some of the pressure signs that you look for when you're reloading?
You can, especially in the semi-auto, so shooting those out
Hmm.
of a AR platform, you'll get swipes on the rim of the case from the ejector. That'll start to get more pronounced as the pressure goes up, and the extractor will bend the rim more because the
Mm.
case was that expanded and tight coming out of the chamber on the AR. The extractor will pull on that, and then primer. A
Hmm.
lot of times, if you get a really flattened primer, that tells you you're starting to get into dangerous pressure. Like if you ever look at somebody's 9 millimeter major loads, you'll start to see like the breech face of the pistol imprinted on the case head of the 9 mil, and you'll see the dead
Mm.
flat primers and
Hmm.
just sketchiness. Like I was even working some 77 grain rifle reloads, and I
Hmm.
was really pushing the peak of velocity, still within published load data, but I was starting to see a lot of pressure signs like that. So I'm like, do I need these to be this fast? Not necessarily. So I'm probably going to back it down just to save wear and tear on the gun. As you increase pressures, it just puts a little more strain on everything.
Gotcha. And then the reason I asked is because so I'm reloading 50 Action Express for my Desert Eagle, and so when I started reloading it, I just went off the numbers on the bottle, right? So the bottle of H100 said 31.5 grains of H100 for the 300 grain bullet. So I did that, and then as I was picking up the cases, primers were flat, which is usually a bad thing, and also you had the ejector mark on it, like it was hitting that hard. The ejector left a mark on it. So I'm like, okay, that seems like way too fast, and so I actually looked at the load data. I dropped it down to like 29 grains, and then the gun stopped cycling. So that was a weird thing. And so I started reading about it, and like a lot of guys were saying, yeah, 50 Action Express is kind of weird. You actually have to push it at that limit. And even though the case may look bad like that, that's how it likes to be. And so,
Yeah, it's just that how it was designed to function, just a very high
yeah,
pressure round, and
yeah.
and that's that's sometimes like, oh, it beats up the brass. You're trying to save that
Hmm.
brass and reload it, so that's always tough. But yeah, and that's one thing with published low data that can vary a lot too. I try to compare a couple different sources when possible, if it's there. You got a lot of them like Ogden has a really big compendium of
Hmm.
lots of different powders, and then like
Hmm.
Nosler makes their own big bullet company that makes their own reloading data, and a couple different ones. Vitavori has some stuff. It's usually only for their powder, but I
Hmm.
really like that powder. But yeah, you can find some factory loads that are right on the ragged edge of very high pressure.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, that's why I tell people when you're thinking about getting into row loading, just learn as much as you can because if you mess up, you might hurt yourself, you might destroy your gun, you might kill yourself. Definitely ask around as much as possible.
Yep. Yep. Ask questions and use published data. That's the one thing.
Absolutely. I guess one of my favorite calibers to reload is so I picked up a Japanese Type 26 revolver. This is like this early World War One, and so it uses 9 millimeter Nambu, which is something nobody makes anymore. But one of the fun things is you can do is actually take a 38 special case and just cut down the 38 special case, and it's since it's 9 millimeter, it'll pretty much just use a regular 9 millimeter bullet. So
Oh,
so
that's
I've been
cool.
working up a load for that, and yeah, just kind of taking old things that don't exist anymore, and you can make them because otherwise, you're not going to be able to find 9 millimeter Nambu anywhere.
Yeah, that's what's really fun about reloading. Yeah, it's just the capability you have. Like I remember when it kind of first came out, the 300 blackout. I've actually
Yeah,
used one for deer hunting for like the last 6 years because where
nice.
I live, you're only allowed to use shotguns. It's because allegedly because it's a densely populated area, so
Uh-huh.
where we hunt, you're only allowed to use shotguns and slugs or
Mhm.
legal pistols. And I'm like, guess what? I've got a 300 blackout pistol. But I just found it really cool how you could convert 223 brass to be 300 blackout, and I've loaded all my own 300 blackout. I think I've killed 6 deer with it now. It's awesome,
Nice.
but just cool capability.
Cool. Are you gonna start loading anything odd? That's where the
No,
fun begins.
I can only afford
Sounds
for nine
expensive, he
millimeter.
says.
But Tim, question for you. Speaking of high pressure, how do you load 9 major?
You just put a whole bunch of powder in it. Like
More?
there's pretty much like nine
Okay.
majors is very sketchy in my opinion.
Hmm.
A lot of times the nine major guys will either use a small pistol magnum or even a small rifle primer
Okay.
because they need that thicker primer cup. Otherwise, like a standard small pistol primer would probably pierce. It would say it would cause it would blow out the primer most likely. But
Mm.
there's some published low data on nine major. I've noticed Masterpiece Arms MPA will give you
Hmm.
some load data if you buy their nine major open guns. But you tend to use a really slow pistol powder like Accurate number nine or Ramshot Silhouette, and it's just a boatload of it in there,
Hmm.
like 10 grains of some powder, and you've got to run like that's why the nine major guys like hollow points because you can load them really long, so there's barely any bullet in the case because you can't fit the bullet in the case anymore because there's so much powder in there.
Oh,
Not have
quick
it be
question
too
for you,
long
Tim.
for the yeah.
Can you explain to the audience who doesn't know what is nine major and why does that mean you probably shouldn't pick off rounds from the ground, especially if there's a competition there.
Absolutely. So in USPSA, they have a thing called power factor. It's basically like a specification for how powerful your ammo has to be. They have a minimum, and like the minimum for most divisions is 125 power factor. So for example, that's a 125 grain bullet doing 1,000 feet per second. Kind of sets a minimum for so you can't load your ammo really ridiculously light and be cheating by never having recoil, stuff like that. But in some divisions, they make a major power factor, which is 165. So the theory is, or their idea is, you get more points for some zones on the target you hit with major power factor as a reward because you're dealing with more recoil. Originally, 40 Smith and Wesson was the only one that kind of they started with for major power factor. That and 45 ACP. So it's like a 180 grain bullet at 1,000 feet per second. That's 180 power factor. So usually that's kind of the thing. But some guys figured out you could get 9 millimeter to do that in a very dangerous fashion, mostly because for the longest time they use like 38 Super or 38 Super Comp. It's like 9 mil, same style of case, just longer, so you have more room for powder, longer chamber. You don't get the same kind of pressures, but you get the increased bullet velocity to make major. So somebody figured out you could do it with 9 millimeter and just run the absolute ragged edge of what's possible. So you see some really crazy pressures. You're almost seeing like rifle caliber pressures in that nine major gun. Like I know 9 millimeter. There's like a Sammy spec of like 32,000 psi maybe, and you get into 9 millimeter major, you're seeing maybe 60,000 psi, which is right up
Ooh.
there with a 5.56 case. And so yeah, some if you've got open shooters at your range and they drop one of their nine major rounds, and if you're unlucky and it'll chamber in your gun, it would absolutely blow a lot of factory guns up. They're just not designed to handle that kind of chamber pressure and then the output of that. Most of the time, you get lucky, and with nine major, they have to load the bullet really long, like because like I said, they usually the case is full of powder, like absolutely full to the brim, and then they just get the bullet in there as much as they can. So in most guns, it won't chamber because the rifling is much too close to the chamber. But sometimes, depending on bullet profile, if you're just unlucky and it chambers, it would absolutely blow a Glock to bits. Like it's not designed for it. It doesn't have like a fully supported chamber and things like that. Like I actually tried to shoot a friend of mine's 9 major in my PCC because it's a fully supported barrel. It would handle it, but it wouldn't even chamber in my PCC because it was loaded too
Oh.
long. I was like, oh man, well, I guess that settles that. That's a quick deep dive into 9 major. Just scary, scary high pressures and dangerous stuff. So that's why you never pick up pistol ammo you find on the ground and shoot it in your guns. Maybe pick it up, but pull it apart and use the prime case.
So I'm
Yeah.
a oh,
Oh,
so
go
I
ahead,
was
Kate.
gonna say, so I'm assuming when it comes to 9 major, they make specific guns or barrel for 9 major. Is that correct?
It's like it's a specific design. Yeah,
Okay.
it's got to be a fully supported chamber. So I could, if you ever have like the barrel, even a CZ Shadow 2
Uh-huh.
generally would hold 9 major because it shares the same supported barrel like the CZ Checkmate, which is an
Mm.
open gun. It's just you'll notice like if you put a loaded round into the barrel of a Glock, you'll see it's got that feed ramp, and you can see part of the bottom of the case that's not like fully covered by the barrel.
Yeah.
If you shot a 9 major in that, it's going to blow that portion of the case out the bottom
Okay. So so
generally
for
too.
so for 9 major gun, you could still shoot regular nine too, right?
Yep, absolutely,
Okay. Okay.
absolutely.
All right. Nice.
It's just built in a much more robust fashion to put up with the kind of pressures you see.
Mm.
Is all
So,
that it really is.
so pretty much just like a 357 Magnum revolver, and you can still shoot a 38 special in it. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. What were you gonna say, Christian?
Oh no, yeah, I was just pretty much gonna say that that Tim has an excellent point. Just as a general rule of thumb, if you talk to reloading people, they'll tell you that it's not a good idea to use other people's reloaded ammunition. There's always some liability with that. You know, maybe they just had an off day like me where they weren't paying attention, and then you get that round that does blow up your gun or does hurt you. Especially just random mystery rounds that you see on the ground of the range. Like when we were at the competition, there was actually a decent amount of live ammunition on the ground, and there's that temptation of, oh, I could save myself 50 cents or 25 cents of picking these up, but it's a little risky. It's not really worth it. Um, I've been going to gun shops, and then gun shops will just have like this mystery baggie of just random assorted like 9 millimeter or random assorted 5.56, and just don't get those. You don't know where they got it from. Don't get those.
Funny note on that. I think I'm up to like 2.5 gallons now of live round range pickup, random stuff. I got buckets. I think I'm going to try to make an epoxy table someday with all of these because I'm not going to shoot them either if I don't know where they came
Yeah.
from. Yeah, but you just end up sweeping them up if you're picking up brass. But it's pretty funny. Or I'm like, maybe someday if the primer market gets so bad, I could pull all these apart. But
You know,
No, that's a cool idea. I like that. Go ahead, Coop.
a funny story. I told Christian this story already, but back when I first started USPSA, right, I didn't know the difference between 9 major and just regular nine, so I started picking them up, and I actually shot one, and
Ooh, really?
yeah, yeah, I shot one through my shit. Tim, are you still there?
yeah, I'm still here. Did
Oh,
I
okay,
cut
okay.
out?
Yeah, 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 you froze for it. Yeah, so I shot one I shot through them through my Hellcat, and all of them were okay until I got to this one round. And I don't know if it was a major or not, but I think it was a major because that recoil was like a 357 Magnum.
Yeah,
And
very much could be.
yeah, so that's why like I was wondering, do you have to shoot a lot of 9 major to blow up your gun, or can it just be
It
one?
really, it really depends on the gun, and like sometimes we didn't really dive into too much like advanced reloading, but in most of your pistols, you'll have the chamber that's cut that fits the
Yeah.
case in, and then eventually the rifling starts. So when you're loading, you can't load your bullet so long that it jams into that rifling. So if you picked up a 9 major and it was loaded to like just the ideal length where it jams into that rifling, but still lets you lets the slide go into battery, that's going to cause a much higher pressure spike than even normal. So if in that certain circumstance, that right there could blow it up because if jamming it into the rifling in combination with the extreme pressure of the 9 major. But if, for example, the rifling's far enough back, so you load a 9 major and it's not sitting in the rifling, chances are good it can just shoot like normal. It's just going to feel more recoil.
Okay.
But that's just without knowing every
Yeah.
specific gun, you definitely don't want to risk it.
Yes.
That's what
Yep.
it boils down to.
Yeah. So I learned my lesson. So I stopped picking up random rounds after that.
Know a guy that picks him up and shoots him out of his PCC. And yeah, he'll be going bang, 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 boom, bang, bang, boom. It's pretty hilarious, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Braver than me, that's for
Oh
sure.
yeah.
All right, so we're down to our last question. So we did kind of answer this question already from the very beginning of the podcast, but we could dive a little bit deeper into it. So the last question is, what are some of your favorite resources for learning about reloading?
Very good one. Some of my introductory ones were like a Hornady reloading book. They have like nice hardcover. It's reloading data, so all sorts of calibers and powder number charge and stuff like that. But it also has the beginning section where it describes how reloading works. That's like a solid introductory read. Um, Otherwise, like I get almost all of my reloading data, like Ogden Reloading, the makers of most powders available in the United States, has a reloading data center on their website. It'll list all the calibers. You can kind of pick the bullet weight and bullet powders. But it's kind of hard to pick just one that's available on the internet. But usually it's going to be related to like bullet and powder manufacturers is going to be good, reliable information. You start getting into like forums and you're asking for trouble. You know what I mean? You get kind of random. Hey, this guy said that worked. Well, does it actually work? Or is he just
Yeah.
making it up? Like maybe finding somebody you trust that's reloading also a good source of info. Like you did with me, cool. Like
Yep.
I'm more than glad to help people. I probably get a couple questions a week on Instagram about reloading stuff, and I'm I'm very glad to help people because I learned a lot of it the trial and error way, being careful still, but if it can go wrong, I probably run into it, and it just takes time and experience to learn and be that person to offer the help too. So a solid resource is finding someone you know and trust and kind of bouncing it off them.
So so Tim, I got a question. So when you read the reloading manuals and stuff, right? Are they different from like competitor shooter reloads?
Yeah, I mean,
Like you know what I mean, right? So for example, the manual book would just have like specific recipe that will just work, but then they're still much hotter than what competitor shooter would load theirs. Does that make sense?
yeah, usually you got to kind of find the middle ground. You
Hmm.
just gotta understand power factor. You know how it works. It's your bullet velocity times the bullet weight divided by 1,000. That'll give you a 3-digit number, and you got to be over 125 for
Hmm.
USPSA most divisions. I usually shoot for like 132 power factor. It's good and reliable. And if you get any variance with the chronograph at certain ranges or matches, you still got plenty of room. You don't get too close. But once you get that, you kind of got to chrono your bullets and find out. Like a lot of manuals will have a minimum and a maximum.
Mm,
And usually
okay.
the minimum's pretty low and the maximum's usually pretty high. So you
Mm,
kind of usually they say never start more than 10% away from the maximum. Like don't start right at the max load with any load data. They say start a little bit below it. And that's
okay.
if I have like a new powder, I'll look at the load data. I'll say, okay, well, I don't need it to go as fast as the maximum. So maybe I'll start right in the middle of the published load data, make 5 rounds, chrono them. Okay, I need to go faster. So then I'll
Mm,
bump it up by 0.2 of a grain or something and and go up from there. Like a funny story, I was reloading some of my deer hunting ammo when I first like developed the load in 300 blackout. I wanted to see how I was trying to get maximum speed I could get out of this round. So I brought my little single stage Lee press and my powder throw and my scale to the range with me, the outdoor range. So I'd load one up and chrono it, and I say, okay, I think I can go faster. I'm not at the max yet. and I found out about half a grain from max. For every tenth of a grain I went more, the bullet wasn't going faster. So it's like I was starting to just waste powder in flash and noise.
Okay.
But yeah, just understanding the power factor and then working up. That's kind of part of the fun to me is developing a new load. Like, hey, I've got this 130 grain bullet. I know by the math I need it to do 1,000 feet per second. So okay, you find your powder data and you just adjust a little more or a little less, and then make some more and make slowly bigger production runs of it until you can do a big test and make sure it does what you want.
Okay. That makes sense. What about you,
What about
Christian?
you? Oh, no, why don't you add? What are some of your favorite resources?
Oh, me?
Mhm.
So like I said in the beginning, I have never read a reloading manual before because since I do USPSA, I could ask all these guys that shoot, at the matches, and I think I kind of preferred that because I actually see them shooting it, you know what I mean? And it runs well with the gun, and I kind of want to. I think me personally, I might sound ignorant for saying this, but I'd rather listen to like people that could actually shoot it and I see it with my own eyes and then I'll take their words for it than just going on a manual book or on the internet and because who knows if that guy behind the form is actually shooting, you know what I mean? So that's what I would recommend for like new shooters. If you want to get into reloading, go to a competition match because that's where all the knowledge is. But if you just like not if you're not gonna go compete, I don't think you should get into reloading because I think you'll have better experiences shooting factories. Unless, you want to read the manual and everything, then yeah, go for it. But I'm someone who hate reading and I don't like to like, read the manual. So that's just my experience and that's my favorite resource, asking actual competitive shooters. Because I could be wrong for saying this, but I think competitive shooter, most, not all, but most of them want to have the least recoil, right? So for me, I also want a little bit recoil only, so I tend to just listen to them. Yeah,
Yeah, that makes a
And
lot of sense. You're going to somebody who has demonstrated that their knowledge is
mhm,
working. Yeah, that's very solid.
yeah.
I still recommend you
mhm.
maybe cross-reference other people's data with published data just for liability and safety. But otherwise, yeah, that's a very solid place to get info from.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of my favorite resources. I don't have any reloading manuals. I'm in the spirit of how I learned guns. I am entirely YouTube trained, which has its pros and cons. There's definitely good info out there, but there's definitely also a lot of bad info out there. I think one of my favorite channels I mentioned before is Ultimate Reloader. He covers a lot of good stuff. He's got a really good production content. I've been watching a little bit more stuff from like Eric Cortina. Um, One of the other really cool resources is that Hodgdon actually has pretty much an online loading manual. So I'm going to share my screen here. So if anybody wants just like free, good loading data, you can go to Hodgson's website and they've got their reloading data center. And so you can just check out different calibers and check out different powders, things like that, and just get some recipes here for free. And so this is a resource that I use all the time. You can just get tons of different loads here. And so this is from Hodgdon, and so this is a good resource that's quality too. So
I've noticed lately they get a lot more realistic bullet types. Definitely important to know
mhm,
whether you're shooting like a coated lead bullet or a jacketed bullet, because
mhm.
generally you'll get higher pressure much sooner with a coated lead bullet because it's softer and it'll expand the filled bore on your gun sooner. And it's nice that Ogden's had more and more of those coated bullets in their load data section lately.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. They definitely been expanding a lot, and it's really nice to see that.
So Tim, I have another question for you. Since you want the top shooter, um, have you ever seen or have you have you ever seen any of the other top shooter where they keep their load as a secret?
No, I don't think that they keep it as a secret. Some people might just be overly paranoid and like don't want the liability involved
Okay.
with sharing load data. I don't know that anybody's ever purposely kept it a secret, but yeah, I'm kind of surprised that it's not spoken about more. I think a lot of your much higher top shooters are shooting factory ammo anyways. To get an ammo sponsor, like
Yeah.
like all the guys that shoot for SIG get SIG
Hmm.
ammo. Like JJ gets, I think he shoots Arms Corps stuff like that.
Mm.
So that might be why you don't see more of that. But yeah, I don't know. I've always never minded sharing mine at all. Like,
Yeah,
hey, this with the grain of salt, user liability. But yeah, this is what I do.
that makes sense. Well, anything else, guys?
I don't think
No.
we you could always get really deep into the weeds, but I don't
Mhm.
think that's going to do anybody any good. I think we covered the bases really well for a lot of people. So
Oh yeah, since you brought Lee and Christian, you said the Ultimate Reload is one of your favorite resource, right?
Mhm.
So one thing, so I could be ignorant for saying this because I don't
Mhm.
even reload that much, but I feel like Ultimate Reload, that guy likes everything.
He
Like he,
shills.
I
Yeah.
like he give everything as a positive review. Like for
Yes.
example, the Lee Pro 1000 singles with like Such 00, where he give positive review for every single gun, and I feel like those are the people that you don't actually want to listen to.
I did want to get into that part, but okay. So with Ultimate Reloader, when I say that it's a good resource for learning, it's a good resource for learning process because he
Okay,
covers process pretty well.
all
Okay.
right,
Now, as for product reviews, he's the reason I got the X10, and he's the reason why I'm kind of upset I got the X10.
yep, yes,
X10, like I said, is first gen product. It's got a lot of teething issues, and I've got that upgrade kit coming. But he is paid by Frankfurt Arsenal. He is part of their he's part of like their marketing for Frankfurt Arsenal. So I'm not super happy about that. But in terms of like process, he's his production values there, and he shows proper process. And I think if you're getting started, that's really what you need. In terms of his reviews, I'd be cautious.
okay, all right. That makes sense. Okay, if you put it
Yes.
that way, that makes sense. Okay, so if that's the reason, then yes,
Hmm.
Ultimate Reload is pretty good.
Hmm.
All right, that is it. That's everything that's all the question that we have. So for Tim, for the viewers, where can they find you?
I'm on Instagram at Canto Timmy. Might have seen some memes, and I try to just be helpful all the time. So feel free to shoot me a message. I'm always glad to help people get into shooting sports of any kind, honestly.
What about you, Christian?
Yeah, find me on Facebook, Instagram, Instructor Kang, and then our little training company is Mountain Tribe Development. We're gonna try to put out some more stuff, but that's where I'm at so far.
All right. Yeah, I definitely want to mention one more thing. So, yeah, so this is why I have mad respect for Tim because he's like one of the top shooter and he responds to like he responds to like almost anyone, right? Including myself. So that's why like mad respect for Tim. So, yeah, if you guys want any like if you guys have any reloading question, reach out to Tim. I I I think he's the guy for it.
Yeah, we really appreciate you having you on,
Yeah.
Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always another thing. I'm always glad to help people
Yeah.
grow and continue and expand with what they're doing. Shooting sports in general is a really cool thing, and if everybody just does a little bit to help somebody else out, it'll keep growing and keep getting better.
Yeah. And it will definitely help you
Agreed.
too. Yep.
Agreed.
All right. Well, that's all we have for tonight. So, Tim, Christian, thanks for talking with me tonight, and you guys have a great night.
You
I'm gonna
too.
I'm gonna stop
Thanks, guys.
recording right now.